Welcome back to the poker vlog, and today we're back in San Diego for winter break, but we're going to head out to Morongo, which is right next to Palm Springs, to jump into the 1-3 action. We're going to be buying in for $300, and since it's a Thursday night and football's on, Morongo runs a special promotion where for every field goal made, they drop $25 into every pot. Every touchdown they drop in 50, and every safety they drop 100. So this promotion definitely brings a lot of good action to the casino, so we're hoping to run good. Let's run. We go ahead and hop in the car and head out east. Holding knee, red or green? Not black. First interesting hand of the day, we look down at Ace King of Clubs in the big blind. There are multiple limps to us, and then we go ahead and raise it to $20. The action player on the button makes the call. We now go to a flop of King 8-4 with 2 hearts, and we continuation bet for $12. The button decides to make a call, and we now go to a turn. The turn is the 9 of clubs, and we continue firing, this time for $25, hoping to get value from any king or a flush draw. The player on the button decides to stick with his hand and put in the call, so we're now going to a river. The river is an interesting one as it comes the ace of hearts. We have a lot of options here. We can either block bet, hoping to get value from a worse 2-pair, single pair hoarding, or go ahead and check, and if he had some kind of hand he was floating with, like queen jack with a heart in it, hopefully he bluffs. We do check to him, and he bets out $50. Now we're in a bit of a spot here, as he definitely has a lot of flushes in his range, and we obviously did not block any of them. However, we did just make 2-pair, and we know this player can go for relatively thin value and also be calling light on earlier streets. So if he has any ace-8, ace-9 hand that just made 2-pair, we're still beating all those combos. So based on that process, we decide to go ahead and put in the chips for the call.
Got a plus.
Unfortunately, he turns over 7-3 of hearts, so he made a light call pre-flop and got there on the river. The very next hand, we look down at ace-8 of spades on the button. We raise it up to $10 pre-flop, and we get callers from the small blind and the big blind. Going to a flop, which now comes ace-8-6 with 2 diamonds, so super wet board, and we have top 2-pair. We, of course, put in a c-bet for $12, and the small blind now raises it up to $30. He could be doing this with a flush draw or possibly a straight draw or a worse 2-pair. So we decide to go in for the flop 3-bet up to $87.
All in.
The small blind now announces all in for around $150 total. We think for a sec, but we have top 2-pair, and if he has a set of 6s, he has a set. So after not thinking for too long, we go ahead and put the rest of the chips in for a call. The turn is another ace, so now we're even beating a set of 6s, and the river's a brick. We turn over our full house, and it is good against our opponent's ace-10 of diamonds.
High hand? I got a high hand. Ace is full of 8s.
Not only do we win that $300 pot, but we get an extra $100 on top for getting the second highest hand of the hour. We now look down at ace-jack offsuit in the small blind. There are multiple limps to us, and we decide to go ahead and raise it here to $18. The flop now comes ace, king, queen, rainbow, so definitely a board that's favoring our range. So we go ahead and c-bet $18. The cutoff makes the call, and we go to a turn, which comes the 4 of diamonds. With this brick of a turn, I think a mix between betting and checking here is fine. Against this particular opponent, who we know likes to bluff, we decide to check it over to him. He quickly checks it back, and we go to a river, which is another complete blank of the deuce of spades. Here, knowing this opponent likes to bluff so much, and sometimes even value out himself, we decide to check it over to him again. He relatively quickly slides in $45 into the pot. This is a pretty sizable bet. But at this point, we just under-repped our hand so much that we nearly have to call, especially with the jack blocking jack 10 for the straight. Our opponent goes ahead and flips over king jack offsuit, so he goes ahead and value owns himself, and we take down this pot with an ace. This next hand, we look down at king queen of diamonds in middle position and raise it up to $10. We get a call from a very active player at the table, and we go to a flop, which now comes ace high with the ace of diamonds, eight of clubs, and two of spades. The action player now decides to lead out here for $10. And with king queen of diamonds, we have a lot of backdoor opportunities, so we decided to put in the chips and float the turn, which comes the five of diamonds. So we now pick up the nut flush draw, and when he bets $25, it's a rather large size to just have the outs to the flush draw, but we think we can get max value if we do hit a diamond on the river. So we put in another $25 into this pot, hoping for a diamond on the river. As the river now comes the seven of spades. So unfortunately, we brick out and nothing we can really do besides lay it down. Next, interesting hand, we look down at pocket nines. There is a limp from the hijack, and on the button, we decide to raise it up to $12. The small blind decides to make the call, and the original limper calls as well. The flop comes 6-6-3, and the limper leans out for $15. He definitely has all the sixes in his range, so we decide to just make the call. The turn is a very interesting card as it is another 6. Here, the limper bets 15 again. There's some merit to raising, but he still has the sixes in his range, so we just make the call. The river is a 7, so when he bets 15 again, we just snap it off with our 9s, and we're good. He had a 3. Looking back at it, we may have been able to raise the river to get some extra value, but it's alright as we still scoop in the pot. Unfortunately, our phone died about 3/4 of the way into the session, but there's just a few hands that I want to talk about that I wasn't able to get on camera. So this first one, we look down at pocket aces. Under the gun, raise it up to $10. Ira makes the call. Then the big blind, somewhat of a passive older gentleman, 3 bets us up to $38. I think he mostly has a lot of strong hands here, so we put in the 4 bet up to 112. Ira gets out of the way, and the gentleman makes the call. So heads up, going to a flop, which now comes 10 jack 5 rainbow. Not the best, not the worst flop in the world. Obviously 10s and jacks are not beating us, which is a little bit scary, but we don't want to give any hands like ace queen or ace king a free turn, so we c-bet a little large for $100, and thinks for a little bit, but relatively quickly the older gentleman makes a fold. Next interesting hand, we look down at 5-4 of clubs in the cutoff. There's an early position limp, and we raise it up to $12. Ira makes the call, and the original limper calls as well. So 3 ways going to a flop, which now comes 5-7 ace rainbow. So we have bottom pair, and when it checks to me, we're gonna go ahead and fire out a c-bet here of $12. Ira folds, but the limper makes the call. The turn is now the king of diamonds. When it checks to us again, we know this player has led out multiple times on ace-high boards into the pre-flop raiser. So because he hasn't this time, we don't put him on that strong of a hand. So we continue firing here as a bluff for $25, and the limper now calls again. The river is now an 8. Does complete some straights. We block some with the 4. So when he checks to us again, we don't think we have the best hand here enough of the time just to check back. And because he didn't lead into us on the flop, we think he's weak. So we're going to go ahead and fire out a third bail of $50. He thinks for a little bit and ultimately ends up making the fold. So nice to get one through there. In this next hand, we look down at king of 10 of spades in the hijack, and there are a couple limps to us. We decided to raise it up to $15, and we end up getting multiple calls at the table. So going to a flop multi-way comes jack 10 deuce rainbow. So we flop middle pair, decent kicker, and a person in middle position now decides to lead into us for $15. This is a bit awkward, but we have a relatively strong hand, so we put in the call and everyone else folds. So going to a turn, which is a brick, the 4 diamonds, and the middle position limper now bets 15 again. I'm sensing a little bit of weakness here, but we do beat all 10s besides ace 10 that he could be betting with, so we just make the call. The river is now another deuce, and he puts out a blocker bet of $20. This bet is definitely interesting. I think it contains a lot of weak jacks, like jack 7, jack 8, jack 9. So we decided going for the raise with a pair of 10s. up to $80. He thinks for a little bit before putting in the fold. So we think we were behind. We could have maybe had the best hand, but I'd say you had to take it down. Besides the few hands we weren't able to capture on video, we won a couple other small pots to put us in a profit, nearly $800 on the session, as we bought in for $300, cashed out for $1,090. So definitely our biggest win ever. Feels nice to have that one in the back pocket. Needless to say, the ride home from Morongo felt pretty sweet. And super excited to keep playing some 1-2, 1-3 stakes, maybe bump it up to 2-5 in the future as I head back up to LA in a couple days. So anyways, thank you guys so much for sticking through the whole video. If you liked it, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And with that, until next time.